Hello, welcome back to Statistics and Mathematics YouTube channel. Today we are going to continue our series of video on statistical method 1, right? So today our main focus will be on probability, right? And then we are going to also learn some of the basic concepts of our probability that will really help us to understand probability given questions for us to solve it and solve it very well. So in simple terms, what is probability? Probability is just defined as a chance of an event occurring. A chance of an event occurring. So for instance, let's assume that today is Thursday and tomorrow we want to give some prediction that tomorrow surely there is going to be a rain, right? Due to our prediction, we can say that, oh, tomorrow we have a higher chance that it will rain, right? So probability is just an event, a chance of an event what occurring. And then we have some concept that we have to really understand for us to really understand the probability theory, right? So the first concept is what? Probability experiment. So when we say probability experiment, a probability experiment is a chance process that leads to a well-defined result called what? An outcome. So probability experiment is just, for example, let's say if you have a die, right? When you have a die, when you roll the die, rolling that die is what? A probability what? Experiment, right? When we have a coin, when you toss that coin is what? A probability what? Experiment, right? When you have a cast and you want to draw, right? Once you draw the cards, it's what? A probability what? Experiment. So probability experiment is a chance process that leads to a well-defined result called what? An outcome, right? So what is an outcome, right? An outcome is a result of what? A single trial of what? A probability what? Experiment. So for instance, if you have a probability experiment of tossing a coin, right? That single toss of that coin of the probability experiment give what? An outcome. Let's say when you toss the coin, and the coin toss what? Head, right? So that head is what? The outcome of you tossing what? The coin. So that's the meaning of what? Outcome. What is what? Sample space. A sample space is the set of all possible outcomes of what? Probability what? Experiment. So for instance, let's say when you toss the die once you toss the die one, you have two possibilities. Either you get a head or you get a tail. So the sample space here is what? All the possible outcome of you tossing what? The die. All the possible outcome of you tossing the coin. And then what? Etc. So it's just the set of all possible outcomes of a probability what? Experiment. We are really going to solve examples on this sample space for you to really understand what is meant by what? The sample space. And then the event. Event is just a subset of what? A sample what? Space. So let's come here. We have some illustrated example for us to really understand the four concepts that we have explained here, right? So the first one, we said the probability experiment, right? So this case, we are just assuming that for the probability experiment, we are just rolling what? A die, right? So when you roll a die, the moment you roll it, there will be an outcome. So when you roll it, the outcome was 3. It means that when you roll the die, 3 what? Appeared in front. So the outcome is what? 3. And here we have what? The sample space. The sample space for you rolling the die, for you to rolling the die once is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because we have 6 possibilities. That will be what? Our sample space, right? And then the event, right? The event, we can say that, oh, we should just give possibility that the die is what? An even. When you toss the die, it will result to what? An even number. So the die is what? Even. So here we have 2, 4, 6. When you look to the sample space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The even possibility are 2, 4, 6, right? 2, 4, 6, as you can see here. So this is how the basic concept of probability can be what? Explained. And then we have sample space for various probability what? Experiment, like tossing a coin, rolling a die, tossing a coin twice, tossing a coin and what? A die. So I want us to go to our worksheet so that I really explain how these results are being what? Turned up, right? So for instance, they can ask us to calculate for what? Or give the sample space for what? Tossing a coin once, right? So if we toss a coin once, the sample space will be what? A head and what? A tail, right? A head and a tail, right? So that will be the only possibilities for us for we tossing a coin once, right? And then we can also be asked to give the sample space for tossing a coin twice. When you toss a coin twice, this is how one can get its own sample space, right? So the sample space will be what? Head, head, held, tail, tail, held, and tail, tail. So how can we get our head, head, tail, 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 head, and what? Head, head. So let's walk through. So you see, when you first toss a coin, you are going to get a head and a tail. And then when you toss another coin, you are going to get a head and a tail. Since they are tossed twice, it means that you are going to multiply what? T1 and then T2 to get what? Our sample space. So here, our sample space will be equal to T1 times T2. So we just have to set a table, right? When you set the table, right, the first column will be for the first toss of the coin. That's head, head. And then the first row will be the toss for the second coin. That's the what? Head and head. So you are just going to multiply, right? So we will take the H here. That's the head. So this head times this head is going to give us what? Head, head. This head times the tail is going to give us held, tail. This tail times the head is going to give us tail, held. And then this tail times tail is going to give us what? Tail, tail. So once you have been able to multiply everything here, right, the result will be what? What we have here, head, head, held, tail, tail, held, and what? Tail, tail. So the sample space for tossing a coin twice will be what? S is equal to T1 times T2, which is equal to head, head, held, tail, tail, head, and what? Tail, tail. Right? So if you are asked to give the sample space for tossing a coin twice, this is how the sample space can be worked out, right? Yes. So let's go to the third experiment. So this is what the third experiment said: tossing a coin 3 times. You should find the sample space of tossing a coin three times. The sample space for tossing a coin 3 times is this: head, head, tail, right? Head, head, tail, tail, head, tail, tail, head, tail, 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 head, 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 tail, head, tail, head, and then head, tail, tail, right? So let me show you how we will get this sample space, right? Let me show you how one can get this sample space. Okay, yes. So as usual, as we did at the first section, right? When we toss a coin first one, I'm going to get head and a tail. When you toss the second time, I'm going to get a head and a tail. When you toss it third time, right? When you toss it third time, you are going to get head and what? Tail, right? So if you want the sample space equal to S is equal to tail times head times what? Sorry, T1 times T2 times what? T3, right? That is what you are going to get, right? But you see, we cannot multiply the 3 at a go. We want us to do it in a sequence form that we will all understand, right? We will know from our previous example that T1 times T2 was equal to head, head, held, tail, tail, held, and what? Tail, tail, right? So you just have that sample space here. So that sample space will represent what? The row, right? And our last sample space, that's the third sample space, right? The H and the T will be for what? Our first column. So you are just going to multiply as we did the first section. So here will be head times head, head. You are going to get head, head, head. Head times held, tail. You are going to get head, head, tail. H times TH. You are going to get HTH. H times TT. You are going to get HTT. T times HH. You are going to get THH. T times AT. You are going to get THT. T times TH. You are going to get TTH. T times TT. You are going to get TTT. Right? So when we are done, we just write all of these observations to be what? Our sample space, as you can see down here. Right? So this one, the HAT is this one. THT is this one. Sorry, TAT is this one, right? TTH is this one. TTT is this one. HHH is this one, right? HHT is this one. HTH, right, is this one. And then HCT is this one. So this is what? Our sample space for tossing a coin 3 times, right? Yes. And then you can be asked to also give the sample space for tossing a die. You see the Ludo die that we have. When you toss the Ludo die once, this is the possibility that you are going to get, right? Because for the Ludo die, you have about 6 observations. You have 1, 2. When you toss it, you can either get 1, you can either get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, right? You can get any of these. So when you toss a die once, this will be what? Our sample space. And then when you drawing of what? A card, the sparred card that we have. When you draw any experiment from the card, the sample space is what? 52. And then for that one, it's very plenty. That's the reason why I wasn't able to write it. But the total sample space here is what? 52 observation. Right? That is what you are going to what? You are going to have. right? We have some examples that I want us to go through that they will ask us to get what? The sample space for them. So let's go to the first example, right? So this is the first example. It said, find the sample space for the gender of the children if a family has 3 children, right? If a family has 3 children, we have been asked to give what? The sample space, right? And then if a family will have a child, right? It can either be what? A girl or what? A boy, right? And then for this, he said, if the family has what? 3 children, right? So here, the first child, right? That would be S1. The first child can either be what? A boy or a girl. The second child can either be what? A boy or a girl. And the third child can either be what? A girl or a boy, right? So this will be what? Our sample space for each of the 10, for the first, second, and what? The third. And then we have been asked to give them the sample space. So the sample space X will be equal to X1 times X2 times what? X3, right? So we cannot do the 3 at a go. We have to just select the first 2, right? So we are going to multiply the X1 times the X2. When we are done, we will multiply it by what? The S3, right? So the first, you draw these boxes like this. So the first column will be for what? X1, that will be a girl and a boy. The second column will be for what? The row, right? The first row will be for what? The second child, that's a girl and a boy, right? So let's multiply. So here, when you multiply this by this, you are going to get a girl. When you multiply this by this, you are going to get a girl, boy. When you multiply this by that, you are going to get a boy, girl. When you multiply this by that, you are going to get a boy, boy, right? So here, the sample space for the two give us a girl, boy, girl, and then boy, right? So this is what you are going to have. So since we want the sample space for the 3 children, we have to just multiply the whole of this one sample space by what? The third one, right? So here we are going to have the first row will be for what? The girl and the boy, and then the first column will be for what? This one, that's the girl, boy, girl, and what? Sorry, I think I have repeated this one twice. Let me do some corrections so that we can continue. Okay, I'm very sorry. So here it's supposed to be what? Boy, and I think it is going to affect my my distance. So let me clean everything here so that I can work it out nicely for us to continue. Okay, so here, once you have this one, just multiply, right? But multiply this by that, you multiply this one 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 by that, and we are going to get this one sample space, right? So here, the sample space will be S1 times S2 times S3 will be this one, the whole of this one, right? But there will be some corrections since I did some mistake here. So let me do the correction so that we will get a correct answer here. So here is supposed to be BB, right? Here is supposed to be BB, right? And then here is supposed to be here is supposed to be B, right? Not J, right? Yes. So this will be our final answer for the question we were asked, right? That's our sample space. J, B, 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 right? This is what we will have, right? Now, our second question was asking us to find the sample space for rolling 2 die, right? So you see, the first die that you roll, this will be the outcome, right? You can either get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the second die you can either get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? You can get any of these, and then with this one, we have to multiply. So our x here will be equal to x1 times what? X2, right? Our x will be equal to x1 times what? X2, right? Since we have been asked to find a sample space for rolling 2 die, right? So this one will be our first die, and then this one will be what? Our second die. So the first row will represent what? Our first die, and then our second row represents what? Our second die, right? So here you combine them. So 1 times 1 will be what? 1, 1. Please, it will not be 1 times 1 and you write 1 here as a whole number. No, it will be 1 times 1, which will be 1, 1, right? 1 times 2, which will be 1, 2. 1 times 3, which will be 1, 3. 1 times 4, which will be 1, 4. 1 times 5, which will be 1, 5. 1 times 6, which will be 1, 6. 2 times 1 which will be 2 1, 2 times 2 which will be 2 2, 2 times 3 which will be what, 2 3, and then we are going to do it till the end, right? When we come here, 6 by 1 we are getting 6 1, 6 2 you are getting 6 2 here, 6 times 2 you are getting 6 3, 6 times 4 you are getting 6 4, 6 times 5 you are getting 6 5, and 6 by 6 you are getting what, 6 6, right? So this will be what, our sample space, right? So this is the introduction to what, the probability theorem that I was talking about, right? This is Statistics and Mathematics YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, kindly subscribe, like, and share so that this video too will get to your friends for them to watch. Bye. Have a great day.